If you were born on the 5th, the 14th, the 23rd, or if you have a Lifepath 5, you possess the collective unconscious manifestation of the Trickster archetype. A trickster is a figure whose physical appetites dominate their behavior. These tend to be people that have the psychology or the mentality of an infant, and they lack any purpose in life beyond the gratification of their senses. And so because these people tend to be dominated by their senses, they tend to act without thinking. And so they can express themselves in a very ruthless, cunning, charming, unfeeling, sort of apathetic type of manner. And it's not because these fives don't have hearts. They're actually extremely passionate. It's just they don't think before they act. And so fives are able to do some of the most destructive and chaotic things and some of the most cold-hearted actions known to man because they're not thinking about it first. And so because they didn't think about it, they don't have any guilt while they're doing it because they're not thinking. Fives tend to think after they do something. Fives is a number that acts first, thinks later. And this is because they're ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is very unstable. And so the only way that fives can really use their mind in a way that it doesn't work against them is by moving. Fives have to stay moving and they have to stay in motion. This is why fives tend to go on walks to stimulate their mind and get ideas. This is why fives have to go on vacations every time they get too stressed out in life. This is why fives tend to move the most, travel the most. This is why fives tend to switch careers the most and go through the most changes in life. Because fives have to stay in perpetual motion. 4 or 5, life is like a war. They have to just put one foot right after the other without necessarily knowing where they're going to go next. If a 5 just acts and they just do and they just jump right in, their mind is able to process information through that experience at rapid levels of speed. And so a 5's, their mind activates after they act. And so the more a 5 does something, the more their mind starts to work and the more they start to learn. 5 is a number that learns through experimentation and trial and error. And so the more they do, the more they learn. But if a 5 is not able to capitalize on that information, they'll just keep making the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over again. And they'll just get stuck in a cycle or stuck in a loop. 5 is the number that gets stuck the most out of any other number. And this is because this is a number that has to act first, then do. And so if they're not able to act off of their thoughts, like their new thoughts that they're getting, based upon what they've learned, then they're never gonna be able to get to the next level or the next phase of life. And that's what separates the trickster from the sage. The sage is the trickster who's all grown up, who has learned from his mistakes and has evolved because of it. A great example of the sage is Malcolm X, who has a Lifepath 5. Before he became Malcolm X, he was Malcolm Little. And when Malcolm X was Malcolm Little, this is when he's displayed the trickster archetype of the 5. And that's what got him in jail. But because he was able to capitalize on the new information that he learned, because Malcolm never stopped learning. He always continued to learn more things. And so he was able to learn from his mistakes, transform his entire life, and then he turned into Malcolm X. And not only did he enlighten himself, but he was able to enlighten the world as well. And he was so influential that he died because of it. Hitler was a Lifepath 5 that was never able to grow out of the trickster phase. He was somebody who went from being a trickster to getting information, learning from his mistakes. Then he temporarily turned into a sage. He gained an influence, gained a following, started a war, started winning the war. But then he turned back into a trickster again because he allowed his urges to completely consume him and possess him. And he became so impatient, and his desire and his will to win the war was so intense that he stopped thinking and he stopped learning from his mistakes. And so he fucked up, attacked Russia, and that's what caused him to lose the war. This is a great example of what not to be as a 5. This is a perfect example of a 5 that gets out of control and spirals out and they get completely possessed by their senses. The sage is the 5 who masters their senses by learning from the mistakes or learning from the information that they gained through that experience. The trickster is the 5 that gets completely consumed. This is why the star of Satan is a 5-pointed star, because 5 represents the 5 physical senses. 5s get the most excited by something new. And the reason why 5s get really excited by doing something new is because they're learning. The excitement that 5s get from a new experience is knowledge. It's their mind rewarding them for learning something new. But instead of the 5 capitalizing and acting upon the new information, they will keep on chasing every new experience that stimulates that excitement. And these people will abuse the dopamine that their mind gives them, or the 5 gives them from learning a new experience. It's not the rush that you're looking for as a 5. It's really knowledge that you're looking for as a 5. It's a knowledge that excites 5s. But 5s that are not aware of this, they will abuse this excitement that they get when they start something new. And then they'll get completely possessed by the 5 physical senses, and they'll turn into Satan, Hitler himself. So watch out for that. To book a reading or to access my numerology book, go to my website, isaiah47.net, and you can also find that in the link in my profile bio. But have a good rest of your day.